I have so many things to tell you. But first of all, do you know leaders that kept you motivated? And do you know leaders that you want to strangle? I know them too. And I'm not the last of that strangling type of a leader. I'm always trying my best to empower my employees and my team. Last year, I was starting as a junior consultant in change management, and I was feeling with high hopes. I wanted to learn something. I wanted to do something and contribute to change. And my leaders, they were quite, I thought, intercultural and very agile, because they really tried to pronounce my name correctly. Yusuf Altınışık and not Altınışık. And I thought, wow, those are great leaders. After 5 months, they kicked me out. They told me, Yusuf, you're not that kind of a guy who fits in our branch. I was shattered. I was disappointed. Well, I was demoralized too, because those 5 months were horrible for me, because I was not fitting there. I was disappointed. And it was just like a movie. I went outside after that super uncomfortable conversation with my leaders. I went outside in front of the building. It started raining. I looked to the sky, and as the cold raindrops were hitting my face, I was furious. I was mad, and I was promising to myself, I will use that madness, that chaos in me, to enable other people. I promised to myself, I want to become a leader who will build bridges. And this is my story. I will give you 2 amazing skills in order to be a great leader in these super chaotic times. Why chaotic times? Climate crisis, political crisis, wars, AI taking over the world. So many stressful points we are living in. And when I'm talking about leaders, I'm not talking about leaders like in a company who get a paycheck and, I don't know, got the latest leadership skills certificate or something like that, or, I don't know, just had a good degree. I mean leaders like my mom. When my mom says something, everyone, sir, no, madam, you're right. Even my dad, he's like this. Leadership begins everywhere. In project groups, in schools, in university, or in the working space. And I'm pretty sure you know these kind of stories. Every group project was 100% like that. There was always someone, 99% of the things, the other one, I don't know what you're doing, just tell me what to do and I will give my best. And the other one is not even there. You know them, right? I know them too. And the kind of a leader I want to propose, that leader will enable those 4 people in the best way possible by building bridges with 2 distinct skills. Just keep on watching. There was a very interesting international study by Laurent, and she asked a very interesting question. She asked managers all over the world, basically this question. It says like, do you have to know every answer about every question that your teammates ask? 77% of Japanese leaders are like, yeah, we have to know everything. And frankly, 59% Italians confirmed, 30% confirmed of British people, and respectively 13% US and Sweden. That shows us something, that leadership style and the way leadership is proposed and built upon has cultural reasons. And in order to handle the cultural problems and incidents and struggles and conflicts, I want to propose my first skill. It is agile leading, which leads us to questioning our own ego. What is first of all, definition, what is agility? Agility is combining flexibility and teamwork. We need agility to try to navigate complexity. And the main core thing about agility is inspect and adapt. First look and observe and adapt to changes. So, you might ask, Yusuf, how can I increase my own agile mindset? First of all, in order to understand the complexity of that given problem, change, or something like intercultural conflicts with your colleague, you have to ask, do I know what's happening? What's wrong? What is changing? What is happening? Then you move next to the motivation part, and then you try to enable yourself. Am I motivated to act? Do I know the whole system, the background? And then the agile mindset tells us to be proactive, to enable our team members by, can I really answer correctly in that specific situation? And when I tell you about agile mindset, the mindset is built upon values. Those are just few of them: openness, focus, communication, easiness. Quite okay, those are reasonable values. We like them, we want them. No one, and I promise you, no one will wake up in the morning and says, wow, I don't want to be courageous anymore, or communication. Forget that. Those are indeed values which enables us to be more flexible. And I tell you that those core values are enabling us to do some things. It is influencing our behaviors. And when I'm always talking behaviors, I'm always talking about culture. So, what do I mean by culture? Hofstede says it is a software of the mind. Culture is a set of shared systems with beliefs, attitudes, with more things that encapsulate the culture thing. And the way I am believing in culture, or the way I am in that specific culture, it is influencing my behavior. So there's a wonderful saying of Edward T. Hall. He says that culture hides its own participants. We cannot see it. We cannot know it. And it is like the philosopher Zhuang Zhou says, water is the last thing a fish notices. Frankly, culture is the last thing human notices, as long as we are not talking about it. We need to talk about culture so we can understand them. So let's go back to the core agile values, and we understood culture. And in order to understand the behavior of one specific guy or girl or in between, we have to look into the person, the context, and the culture. Nice. Cool. But what if someone has respect, the core value, respect, in a different interpretation? For example, me as a Turkish guy, for me, respect means hierarchy. Me, my dad, my mom, my grandparents, my bosses, and lastly, God. But in a Western position, respect means, okay, guys, we're on the same meeting, the boss, the manager, and the intern, and we are on the same wavelength. But please, do respect each other. It is a different kind of interpretation. Or we even interpret time completely different. For example, I was studying 4 years in Portugal, and the way they are interpreting time is completely different than the German time system. They got mad at me because I was always on time. Because my German time is wrong to their time system. One day, my friend of mine, hey Yusuf, you want to go to the beach? Yeah, sure. 12 o'clock in front of the university. I waited 2 hours. The interpretation of time is more flexible. So, you see, with those stories, there's a misalignment in cultural values. The type of culture is misinterpreted, which leads to misinformation, which leads to conflicts. Right? We all had those conflicts, those cultural conflicts, not only by nations, but in groups. We are right now in a TED Talk culture kind of thing. Regensburg has its own culture, Bavaria has its own culture, Germany has its own culture, and so on. We are having always cultural critical incidences, and that's the reason we need the second skill, intercultural leading or understanding others. And here again, the definition part, we need interculturality to recognize cultural diversity. We need intercultural communication to be more empathetic and to collaborate worldwide. And we know the context. And clever minds all over the world already made up their mind, and they tried to systematically categorize cultural behaviors. Those are tendencies, and one of them is, for example, Ehrenmeier, Hofstede, Trompenaar, and one of them is the Lewis culture model by Richard Lewis, and those are 3 dimensions. And I'm pretty sure you'll read about it and you're like, okay, I'm more of the linear active and more of the reactive and multi-active. Cool. I will come back to that slide again, but first of all, I need to teach you something firsthand. Those are tendencies, okay? Tendencies. You're not one of those 3 types. You are in tendencies. Me as a person, as a guy, number 1, with Turkish roots, with Turkish family, and a Turkish girlfriend, in Germany and studied in Portugal. I'm between multi-active and linear active. So, those are tendencies. Let us talk about the dimensions. Multi-active are more people, they are more extrovert. I am one of those, yeah? I am more talkative, I am more empathetic, I am people-oriented. And you remember the story about my 2 leaders? They told me, Yusuf, you're so heartful, you're full of heart and love, and you can change people's behaviors. That's amazing. We need someone like you. But they couldn't enable me, they couldn't understand me. So, they are more linear active. They're more cool, more factual, and they want to plan several things. But always think number 1, number 2, number 3, always like in a specific order in their agenda. One time, a colleague of mine told me, yeah, Yusuf, you're amazing. You tick all the boxes. You do a lot of things. But in a German way, it's a German proverb, you are dancing on too many weddings. And that means that you do a lot of things at the same time. I mean, it's my multi-active culture. I am like that. And that lady was more linear active. And I could understand why she's saying that before I'm getting triggered or mad or sad. And with that model, I understand leaders and my previous leaders as well. I'm not mad. I was furious. I was shattered. But with the agile mind and intercultural heart, I could understand them. And lastly, reactive and polite. Reactive people are more introverted. A Vietnamese friend of mine, he's a colleague, and just so you to know, reactive people are more Asian people, like in the Asian, Thailand, Korea, China, for example. And with my Vietnamese friend, I told him about, I had several students in my class. I was a German and English teacher, and I had students from all over the world, but especially the Asians, the Chinese people, and Japanese people. They never ever asked me questions. And he's like, yeah, Yusuf, we are so polite, we cannot ask questions. We don't want to undermine your teaching. Wow, I could understand it. And that's the reason, guys, we need those cultural models, and I'm pretty sure, go check Google and write about cultural dimensions. There are so many, it is super interesting. You know a lot of things about you and then about your colleagues. So, how to become an intercultural agile leader? I propose you 3 things. Number 1, you have to reflect a lot. Scan your own culture, scan your own context and your own person, and scan the other as well. And then identify differences and similarities. And we're always making the mistake that similarities, we are focusing more on similarities, but differences, when we see differences, they are hidden gems. When we seek to learn them and understand them, we can use that to make even greater things. Number 2, share your observations and give feedback and want feedback. Ask questions curiously and agree on common goals so you can work towards that. And number 3, the last thing, experience. Implement those synergies and never, ever stop learning. And that's how you become an intercultural agile leader. I taught you about agile leading, about navigating complexity, and about intercultural leading to understand others. And how could our world be if every one of you brings something to the table and helps building bridges? That would be amazing, right? And I think that this question will drive us. This question will empower all kinds of leaders, and we need them in that twisted world full of conflicts, that we can empower or can be empowered by our leaders, or that we empower our team members. We have everything in our mind. With intercultural mindset and agile mindset and intercultural heart, we can build bridges and foster together new strategies to do the most important task of our time, shaping our future. Interculturalists, agilists, leaders, assemble. Thank you. Thank you.